Alright, so we've got a pretty short video today. Of course, it's about the testing grounds, and it's short because there isn't much to this testing grounds. And what I mean by that is that there aren't too many changes, despite the changes actually meaning something and affecting Breach. Today, I just want to talk about new Breach now that I'm basically done playing it after playing a whole bunch. So much so that I probably won't play Breach for like a month straight. So I'm not going to waste any time and get right into it. So as you already know, this testing grounds phase is exclusively about Breach, and I'm not going to go into every single change, but the quick rundown is that the mode moves faster, so the ram moves much more quickly now, the ramparts get captured faster, and everyone respawns faster. Attackers no longer have tickets until the final phase, and the amount of tickets they receive is based off of how much health the ram has, from 6 tickets up to 22 tickets if your ram takes no damage. And you can receive tickets anywhere in between those two amounts. And then of course, the rewards for killing the Guardian have been beefed up, making killing the Guardian much more rewarding. And finally, single pick is being tested out. I've seen more discussion about single pick than I have the actual changes to Breach, which is understandable. I've already talked about single pick twice on this channel, so I won't harp on it here. But what I will say is that out of all the time I've played, out of all the matches, I saw 2 people quit out because they couldn't use their hero. One time it was someone who wanted to use Warden, and the other time it was someone who wanted to use Black Prior. So it didn't affect me all too much during my playtime, but a lot of you have let me know that you really dislike this change, especially those of you who use popular heroes, and that's just bound to be the case. In regular old Breach though, I don't really mind it. There's been 1 or 2 times that someone picked a hero that I wanted to use, but I just played someone else. Keep in mind that these are just my feelings on the mode. I don't really have too much to say in terms of balancing the mode out or anything like that, because Breach is always going to be difficult to balance, especially with how the mode was designed, you know, not everyone doing the same thing, and it's going to be impossible for Ubi to make everyone happy with trying to make the mode competitive. That, and also because I don't play a whole lot of Breach. Based off of the feedback that I've received alone after asking you guys, everyone has a different opinion on this or that. Some people see attackers steamrolling now, others see defenders steamrolling. Some people like the faster mode, others don't, so on and so on. So I'm only going to talk about how I felt while playing the mode, and of course you can feel free to talk to me down in the comments, or better yet, our Discord if you want to talk to me about your thoughts. Overall though, the changes are alright. They make the mode better, they make it faster, but personally, half the time I felt as though everything I was doing mattered less with how quickly everything was moving, and that's mainly when I was playing on the defending side. I know the downside of tickets and how they want Breach to be an objective oriented mode, but after playing all these games, I felt as though without the tickets and the faster respawn time and the faster capture of the ramparts and the faster ram, my kills felt like they were doing less. I didn't feel rewarded as much for, say, cutting some guy off who was rotating or something. That's just the trade-off for getting rid of tickets until the final phase though. Eliminating opponents before felt like an objective in a sense. The attackers were attacking my fortress, so I must eliminate all of their soldiers. And I had an idea of where the match was based off of how many tickets the attackers had, as ultimately, if the ram didn't go down, those tickets still carried over into the final phase. The ram wasn't the only indication of how the match was going. And I feel that way despite the ram not healing after the first gate, and I also say this fully knowing that they want eliminating opponents to be a means to playing an objective. And when an attacker is eliminated and waiting to respawn, that they are not out there pushing the ram or fighting the Guardian or playing the ramparts and Cauldron. And the ram health converting into attacking tickets does feel like something and is better, but it just didn't feel better as a defender to me. And when playing as an attacker, I also felt as though I needed to do less because we could capture things so quickly and just barrel down the lane with the ram and get through the gate so quickly, as long as we contested the Cauldron and won our fight at the ram. I mean, the ram feels like it is just zooming down the lane. One time my team distracted the entire enemy team and I was alone on the ram. After I cleared out the pikemen, the gate went down so quickly. And I know that's the defender's fault for getting holed up like that, but they could get wiped once or lose one team fight and we're basically going to bust through that gate. Not having tickets did allow me to play more aggressively and definitely reduce the frustration of getting paired with a bot or someone who rage quit, because tickets weren't just being thrown down the drain throughout the first 2 phases. The final phase plays the same for the most part. There isn't too much different going on in there. Sometimes the commander does something weird, but that's just the commander. As for the Guardian changes, I really do like that the Guardian actually means something now, and the buffs for taking him out are really good. Whoever gets the reward for the Guardian are in the driver's seat for a little while. Being able to just one-shot pikemen is already a huge plus, and who doesn't like wrecking pikemen for how annoying they can be. Infinite stamina is cool too, and you already know I'm all for the red eyes for now. Of course it's not perfect, and they could play around for how long some of these effects last, but other than that, I'm okay with it. I'm also okay with the changes to the flag and cauldron. As for a thing I'd like to see added, at this point I wouldn't be opposed to seeing something like a surrender or forfeit option in matchmaking, as I think one extra reason people prefer Dominion over Breach is because if they're being rolled over, the game will be over relatively quickly. Whereas in Breach, there's a lot of time that still needs to elapse before the game is over. If the attackers are beating down the defenders, the attackers still have to go through both gates and take out the commander. If the defenders are stomping, they've still got to wait for the ram to break, which can take a while if it isn't docked at the gate for the cauldron to destroy it. And no one likes having to play a game with 1 or 2 bots on their team, as sometimes they are just actually worthless and will do the most baffling things. Anyways, despite the changes making Breach faster and a somewhat more enjoyable mode, I still can't see myself queuing into Breach over Dominion, especially as a solo player. As a team, maybe we could try to play some Breach for a bit, just to spice things up. I enjoy playing as a team with a group of friends because obviously it's easier to communicate and whatnot, but when I'm playing solo, Dominion is still going to be my go-to, especially since I can't play anything else like skirmish or elimination. The shorter games are what personally do it for me, and because you're doing the same stuff, you're capturing A, B, and C. Also, if a player leaves in Breach, my team is just sort of stuck with a bot, which is usually not doing much in Breach and could just lead to a snowball loss in a game mode where if you have someone basically doing nothing, your team is in for a rough time. And that's just me, to each their own. I know there are plenty of you guys that really like Breach and really enjoy playing it, and it's possibly your go-to mode in For Honor, but for me, Dominion is still my go-to. As for the testing grounds as a whole, I would be flat out lying to you if I said I was content with what it is. Don't get me wrong, Breach is important, it's something that people wanted since the game released, and Ubi delivered. I think Breach is a great idea. I like the whole theme of it, I love the way it looks, I love the size of everything, but it doesn't feel like there's enough here. It feels like these changes could have been tested along with other things, whether it be hero changes or system changes like stamina changes or something. What would have been really cool is if we saw changes to other modes alongside Breach, like a tribute or skirmish or elimination, or try to mess around with the rewards for these modes to see if people will play them more often. But for what's here, it doesn't take 2 weeks to test this out. You can see everything you need to see in a single play session, whereas in the last testing grounds we had a whole rework and the Warlord and Gladiator receiving changes as well, and that gave us stuff to test out for a few play sessions to see how those heroes feel and see if there's anything to exploit, so on and so on. I don't know, I just wish that there was more content here, as the game has been feeling pretty flat for a while. We do have the year 4 info coming really soon though, so there's that. Anyways, that's all I've got for this video. Turns out this was not a short video at all. I guess I had more to say than I thought I would. I just wanted to talk about these changes now that I've played enough of this phase to not play it for the remainder of the Testing Grounds Phase 2. Also, if you play at all, let me know if you can still find a Testing Grounds game at all. I tried to queue into Testing Grounds like 4 times today, and each time I couldn't get into a game at all. So if you can, let me know. There's stuff to like and dislike about this testing grounds phase, so as always, I do want to hear from you guys, so be sure to talk to me down in the comments about anything we talked about in this video. And as always, feel free to leave a like and sub if you're new, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.